Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm DM Emrys, your storyteller of all things dark and twisted in the Disney universe. Today, we're diving into the origin story of one of Disney's most notorious villains, Scar, the sinister brother from The Lion King. You think you know him, but there's so much more to Scar's tale than meets the eye. In the vast savanna, the circle of life governs all, bringing balance to the Pride Lands. But beneath the beauty of this kingdom lies a dark and twisted tale. It is the story of ambition and envy, of a prince who longed for power and was consumed by it. This is the tale of Scar, once known as Taka, the forgotten brother of Mufasa and the Dark Prince of the Pride Lands. Though Pride Rock symbolizes strength and unity, it also casts a long shadow. A shadow that would one day give rise to one of the most feared villains in Disney history. Long before the name Scar struck fear into the hearts of all who heard it, there was Taka, the second-born son of King Ahadi and Queen Uru. As cubs, Taka and his older brother, Mufasa, roamed the Pride Lands together, unaware of the roles destiny had in store for them. Taka adored his brother, but there was always an underlying sense of competition. Mufasa was the stronger, more confident of the two, and it wasn't long before their father, King Ahadi, began grooming Mufasa for the throne. Taka loved his family, but as the praises and attention continued to pour over Mufasa, seeds of jealousy began to take root in Taka's heart. These feelings, though small at first, would grow into something far more dangerous over time. Taka often found himself on the sidelines, watching as Mufasa received the admiration and love of their father. With every compliment and word of encouragement given to his brother, Taka felt his own worth diminish. He couldn't help but wonder, why wasn't he seen as the strong one? Why wasn't he destined for greatness? Taka's heart ached for the approval that seemed just out of reach. And as the days went on, the jealousy that simmered within him slowly began to burn hotter. Determined to prove his worth, Taka hatched a reckless plan. He approached a buffalo named Boma, whispering lies about how Mufasa had insulted him. Taka hoped to incite a confrontation, one that would humble Mufasa and allow Taka to finally step out of his brother's shadow. Taka believed he had outsmarted everyone. But fate had other plans. As Boma charged, Taka's carefully laid scheme began to unravel. Instead of Mufasa being the one in danger, it was Taka who found himself face to face with the raging buffalo. The attack was swift and brutal. Boma's horn struck Taka, leaving a deep and jagged wound across his eye. In that moment, Taka's entire world changed. The physical pain was nothing compared to the emotional blow. Taka's plan had failed, and instead of proving himself, he was left scarred, both literally and figuratively. It was a wound that would never fully heal. As Taka recovered from his injuries, he found himself unable to look at his reflection without being reminded of his failure. The scar across his eye became a symbol of everything he resented: his brother, his fate, his own perceived inadequacy. From that moment on, Taka decided to embrace the darkness within him. He abandoned his old name, taking on the moniker, Scar, as a constant reminder of the pain and humiliation he endured. Scar's transformation was complete, and with it came a deepening of the bitterness that would shape his future. As the brothers grew into adulthood, Mufasa ascended to the throne, just as their father had intended. Scar, now fully grown, watched from the shadows, his jealousy festering into hatred. He believed that he, not Mufasa, should have been king. Scar's heart was a cauldron of rage, envy, and ambition. He saw Mufasa's rule as weak and undeserved, and every day that passed only deepened his desire to claim the throne for himself. But Scar was patient. He knew that brute force alone wouldn't win him the crown. He would need to be cunning, calculated, and ruthless. Despite his growing resentment, Scar wasn't without power. At one point, he led the Lion Guard, a group of lions entrusted with protecting the Pride Lands. As the leader of the guard, Scar wielded the roar of the elders, a powerful ability passed down through generations of lions. But power can corrupt, and for Scar, the roar became a tool for his own ambitions. He began to abuse this gift, using it not to protect, but to assert his dominance over those he deemed inferior. Scar's obsession with power was growing, and soon, it would consume him entirely. One fateful day, Scar's journey toward darkness took an irreversible turn. While exploring the shadows of the Pride Lands, Scar came across a venomous cobra. The snake, sensing Scar's inner turmoil, struck without hesitation, its venom coursing through Scar's veins. The poison didn't just affect Scar's body, it twisted his mind, amplifying his darkest desires. Scar's heart grew colder, his ambitions more dangerous. He no longer cared about protecting the Pride Lands. All he wanted was power, and he would stop at nothing to get it. In a fit of rage, Scar unleashed the roar of the elders against his own lion guard, obliterating them in a single, devastating attack. But in doing so, Scar sealed his own fate. The roar, a power meant only for those with pure intentions, vanished from Scar's grasp the moment he used it for evil. Without the roar, Scar was left powerless and isolated. What little respect and loyalty he had from the lions around him evaporated. Scar's ambition had cost him everything, but it only deepened his resolve to take the throne by any means necessary. As the days passed, Scar found himself more alone than ever. He watched from the shadows as Mufasa ruled the Pride Lands with strength and wisdom, surrounded by allies and loved ones. Every moment of Mufasa's success was a dagger in Scar's heart. Scar's mind was consumed by thoughts of revenge. The love and admiration Mufasa received were everything Scar had ever wanted. But in his twisted mind, Scar believed that the throne was rightfully his, and he would stop at nothing to take it. The bitterness in Scar's heart festered, turning into something darker. He began to imagine a world where Mufasa was no longer in the picture, a world where he, Scar, ruled over the Pride Lands as king. Scar knew that he couldn't overthrow Mufasa alone. He needed allies, creatures as hungry for power and survival as he was. His search led him to the Elephant Graveyard, a desolate place where the outcast hyenas lived in constant hunger. Scar offered them a deal: food, power, and a place in the Pride Lands in exchange for their loyalty. The hyenas, desperate and eager for a better life, agreed to join Scar's plot. Together, they began to lay the groundwork for Mufasa's downfall. Scar's alliance with the hyenas was built on manipulation and deceit. He promised them the world, but in truth, they were nothing more than pawns in his game of power. Scar had no intention of sharing his rule with anyone. With the hyenas by his side, Scar set his plan into motion. The first step was to eliminate Mufasa's heir, Simba. Scar lured the young cub into a gorge, whispering lies about a surprise that Mufasa had prepared for him. Simba, innocent and trusting, had no reason to doubt his uncle. He eagerly awaited his father's arrival, unaware that Scar had orchestrated a deadly trap. Above the gorge, the hyenas prepared to trigger a stampede of wildebeests. With a single signal from Scar, chaos erupted. The hyenas spooked the wildebeests, sending them thundering down the gorge in a deadly stampede. Simba, trapped in the path of the oncoming herd, could do nothing but call for help. Mufasa heard his son's cries and sprang into action. He raced into the gorge, dodging the stampeding wildebeests as he fought to reach Simba. With great effort, Mufasa managed to pull Simba to safety, but his own life now hung in the balance. In his final moments, Mufasa reached out to Scar, trusting that his brother would help him. But Scar had no intention of saving Mufasa. Instead, he saw his opportunity to claim the throne once and for all. With a chilling calmness, Scar leaned in close to his brother and whispered the words that would forever seal his fate: "Long live the king." And with that, Scar dug his claws into Mufasa's paws and threw him from the cliff into the stampede below. Mufasa's death echoed through the gorge, marking the end of an era. Scar watched with satisfaction as the wildebeests trampled over the lifeless body of the king. His plan had succeeded. The throne was now his for the taking. With Mufasa gone and Simba believed to be dead, Scar wasted no time in declaring himself king of the Pride Lands. He stood atop Pride Rock, with the hyenas at his side, as the lionesses and other animals looked on in stunned silence. Scar's rule began with promises of change, but it wasn't long before the reality of his leadership became clear. Under his reign, the Pride Lands began to wither. Scar allowed the hyenas to overhunt and pillage, disrupting the balance of the circle of life. The once thriving kingdom fell into darkness. But Scar, blinded by his own arrogance, refused to see the destruction he had caused. All that mattered to him was that he was finally king. As the seasons passed, the Pride Lands continued to deteriorate. The rivers dried up, and the herds moved on in search of greener pastures. Scar's mismanagement of the kingdom left the lions and other animals on the brink of starvation. But Scar remained oblivious to the suffering around him. He had no interest in the responsibilities of leadership. His only concern was maintaining his grip on power, and he would do anything to keep it. Under Scar's reign, the circle of life was broken, and the Pride Lands were left in ruins. But even as his kingdom crumbled, Scar refused to admit his failures. His pride would not allow it. Scar's rule of terror might have continued unchecked if not for the return of a familiar face. Simba, now fully grown, returned to the Pride Lands, determined to confront Scar and reclaim his birthright. Simba, who had spent years in exile, could no longer ignore the call of his destiny. He challenged Scar in a final battle for the throne, one that would determine the future of the Pride Lands. The battle was fierce, with Scar using every dirty trick he could think of to defeat Simba. But Simba had the strength of his father within him, and he refused to back down. Realizing that he was losing the battle, Scar's true cowardice emerged. In a desperate attempt to save himself, Scar tried to shift the blame onto the hyenas, claiming that they were the ones responsible for Mufasa's death. But Scar's lies finally caught up with him. The hyenas, who had been loyal to him for years, overheard his betrayal. Enraged by Scar's deceit, they turned on him, realizing that they were nothing more than expendable tools in his quest for power. Scar's final moments were a bitter irony. The very allies he had used and manipulated throughout his reign were now the ones who would bring about his downfall. With Scar defeated, Simba took his rightful place as king. The Pride Lands, once left in ruin under Scar's rule, slowly began to heal. The rains returned, washing away the scars of the past, and life once again flourished. Under Simba's leadership, the Pride Lands were restored to their former glory. But Scar's shadow lingered, a reminder of the darkness that once threatened to consume the kingdom. His tale would be passed down through the generations, a warning of what happens when jealousy and ambition are allowed to take root. Even after his death, Scar's presence continued to haunt the Pride Lands. In the Lion Guard, Scar's spirit returned, fueled by his unrelenting desire for revenge. Through dark magic, he attempted to rise once more, seeking to destroy Simba and his family. But just as before, Scar's plans were thwarted. The Lion Guard, led by Simba's son Kion, stood against Scar's dark influence, finally putting an end to his reign of terror. Scar's legacy was one of destruction and pain, but it was a legacy that would not define the future of the Pride Lands. And so, the story of Scar came to an end. His rise and fall serve as a reminder of the dangers of envy, ambition, and unchecked power. Though he sought to rise above his brother, Scar's choices ultimately led to his downfall. His tale is one of tragedy and lost potential, a dark chapter in the history of the Pride Lands. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, the circle of life continues, but beware of the scars it can leave behind.